Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Cycle. I'm very excited today. I am talking with Jessica Murnane. I'm sure you've heard of her. She's very well known in the endo community. She has two books, one book that is about to come out this week called Know Your Endo. When you're listening to this episode, the book will already be out. We're going to talk to you about the book. We're going to talk to you about her story. But first, Jess, thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
We're so excited. Oh, so excited to talk to you today. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself for the people who don't know you? I'm sure everybody knows you, but tell us a little bit.
So I live in Charleston, South Carolina. I've moved here about 5 years ago. I lived in Chicago for about 18 years. My background is graphic design, which just proves you can study anything in college and then do something else. Yes. I never thought in a million years. I mean, in college, I didn't even know I had endo. So,
right.
So, I mean, what else do you want to know? I mean, I think that's me. I have a kid, I'm married. I have a lot of amazing friends and family. I like doing puzzles. If I was on a dating app, I think these are things I'd say, but although if I was on a dating app, I shouldn't say that I'm married.
True. Yes. That might be one thing you would want to avoid. No, that's great. Those are all really, really great background. Now you have another book though, that you're leaving out that we haven't chatted. So you wrote a book before this book about endo.
Yeah. Which I also, well, that's the thing. I also never thought I would write a cookbook. I mean, in fact, I've said this before, but I remember I ran into a friend I hadn't seen in a long time. And she's like, what are you up to? And I was like, I'm writing a cookbook. She's like, but you don't cook. And I'm like, I do now. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I really, truly taught myself how to cook because of my endo. So as much as I sometimes hate my endo, I also feel that in a weird way, it's given me book opportunities and get to meet people like you, and just it's connected me in ways I never thought it would.
I resonate with that so well because of all the people I've met from the podcast, or just because I have endo that I never would have met. And I feel grateful for that opportunity. I agree. Like I see that as something that put me on a different path, you know?
For sure.
Well, let's just chat a little bit about your story. I want to talk mostly about the book, but you know, how you said in college, you didn't know you had endo. So from a younger age, did you have any signs or symptoms or anything that indicated that you might have it now that you reflect back?
Oh my gosh. When I was even putting the endo symptom list in my book, it's like, check. It's like the only one I think that I didn't deal with in college was infertility because I wasn't trying to get pregnant then. So, right. I mean, I had every single symptom. But I just thought it was normal. I mean, that's how my mom experienced her periods. And so I just thought it was normal to be super bloated and bleed through your pants and not be able to go to school on the first day. So yeah, I had no idea. But I also, I was on another podcast and they were asking me about my endo journey to diagnosis. It's like, I didn't even know endo existed. So there was no journey to diagnosis. Right. You know what I mean? It was like, my diagnosis happened because I had to go to the ER multiple times and I had multiple cysts rupture. And so as much as it was like a long process to get to a diagnosis, I don't know that I was searching for one, if that makes sense.
No, totally. You thought it was normal. So you were just going through day-to-day life and you were like, this is just how I live.
Right. Exactly.
Did you ever have a thought though, like, gosh, why aren't my friends going through this? Or I'm just one of those people that have this more difficult than other people?
Yeah, I just thought I was one of those people. And I do remember my best friend in high school, Meg, she also had really, really bad periods. And whenever, she'd be like, you can take like 5 a leave at a time. Like my mom said, that's okay. So I also had, the only girl that I really hung out with, my best friend, also had bad periods. So I just thought it was normal. And then I also think too, I've never really thought about this until I'm saying it out loud. I'm also a curvy girl. And I was also, all of like the other girls outside of my best friend were always like thin and cheerleader. And, so I just kind of thought maybe my weight or maybe because I was different, I was experiencing periods that way too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that I was very similar, and to the point of like, this is just me. I just have this thing that other people don't have. For me, a realization happened though when everybody thought I was weird because I didn't use tampons, but tampons
Oh,
hurt. And
yes.
I didn't know, like I've talked about this in the show before, but like that's when I was really like, oh, someone's like, oh, we're going on a boat. And I was like, oh, I can't go,
Right. Yeah.
and they were like, what? And that's when like a first realization, I was like, wait, they don't hurt for you to and
Oh my
I
gosh,
just,
that's so true.
yeah.
That feeling of it being like dry and like
Oh, so,
painful, like I can
so
like,
bad.
it's like nails on a chalkboard, just like thinking
Yeah.
about that feeling.
Yes.
I remember when I would go swimming, I would just, this is so gross. I would just like ball up a bunch of toilet paper and just like make a little plug so it
Yeah.
didn't go all the way up, but then have to get out of the pool like every 10 minutes because the
Right.
water would get
You
so.
would be waterlogged. Yeah. I mean, these are the things that people don't talk about, but that we really do. I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I know. Okay. So this shifted. Obviously, you find out that you have endo, you get diagnosed with it. And then did you look back and be like, oh my gosh, for so many years I was going through all of this stuff, and now I know it was all because of endo?
Yeah, but no, because the only thing that I was told was painful periods. Like I didn't know it was fatigue, my urinary issues, and it really wasn't until I started, looking into it more for myself, then I started having some aha moments. But no, I mean, the doctor didn't tell me any of that stuff. And I like to be clear, like I don't like to villainize doctors because I do
Yeah,
think there are a lot of great ones, but
for sure.
I did not connect any of those symptoms to my endo until years later. So, no, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I think
Yeah.
the only thing it explained to me was the painful periods. It didn't explain any of the other symptoms.
Yeah. Yep. I feel very similar in that. Like I remember there'd be Saturdays, sometimes I would have crazy fatigue, like where I felt like I was like in a jello mold, and I'm like, it's Saturday. Like I didn't even work today. Like what is wrong with me? And I would just be so, and I just thought, again, I had no idea it had to do with endo until years later. So
Yeah.
after you did all of this research and all of these things, is that what led you to, it says in your book you were kind of in a dark place.
Mhm.
So tell me a little bit about that. Like,
Yeah. I mean, getting the diagnosis was like nothing. You know what
right,
I
because it
mean?
didn't explain all of the other things that
Yeah,
were
it
going
was,
on, right?
well, and it didn't help manage my depression. It didn't help manage my pain. Like getting a diagnosis, it wasn't in probably until, I don't know, 5 to 8 years later that I actually started to manage my endo.
Yeah.
And I actually think after my initial diagnosis, I think it went very downhill from there.
Yeah.
It didn't get better. I mean, my gynecologist, and I always like to say, if you want to be on the pill, be on the pill. If that's
Yep.
your jam, that's your jam. But for me, she immediately put me on the pill, and my life just took a nosedive. I mean,
Yeah.
and I tried 4 different ones,
Yeah.
which was just a hormone
Yes.
haywire thing for my life. And so I went into a very deep depression.
Yeah.
I swear that my pain got worse on the pill. Like I swear that it did, which could have been from the depression. But at that time, I also wasn't moving my body. I wasn't doing anything that I'm doing now
Yeah.
to help manage it. So it really wasn't until I had multiple surgeries that my doctor said, look, we can't do any more surgeries on you. You either need to get a hysterectomy or go on hormones. And I wanted to do the hysterectomy because I also didn't know back then that just if you get a hysterectomy, that doesn't mean that all of your pain is going to go away if they don't excise the endo.
Right.
So, you know, I talk about it in both of my books that an angel friend intervened
Yes.
with my first tool that I ever used to manage my endo. And I had no faith that it would work, but I stuck with it. And I ultimately didn't get a hysterectomy. I think some people might still have to. That's, this is my story, but it changed my whole life because I finally not only had tools to manage my endo, but I finally understood what all the symptoms were. Like, how are you supposed to manage these things if you don't even know what they are?
Or you don't know they're all related when you're
Yes,
treating them, you're siloing them because you think it's all these separate things that aren't
exactly.
connected, right?
Like, how many of us have gone to a GI doctor? Or,
Of
I mean, that's a
course.
huge luxury, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, so many of us have gotten colonoscopies and everything under the sun because we think it's, a GI issue when
Of
it
course.
is a GI issue, but what is it connected to?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. How old were you when you were diagnosed finally?
28 or 29. I need
Okay.
to, I always don't remember that exact
I
age,
mean, I
but
don't,
I remember the moment I woke up in the
yeah.
hospital.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it was supposed to be an outpatient thing, and it ended up having to be in the hospital for a few days.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that. So your angel friend, you were in this place
Amanda.
and Amanda, um, gave you your first tool, and you talk about that in the book, and you talk about her, and you talk about all of these tools. Now, did one tool kind of lead into the next, or
Oh
what
my gosh.
happened?
Yeah.
So what did you want to tell us a little bit? I don't want to give too much away of the book, but tell
Oh
us a
no.
little bit
Yeah.
about that tool, that first tool, and how it set you on this new path.
Well, and I'm making it sound like Amanda and I sat down together and she had like a whiteboard with like, this is what you need to do. But she actually just literally just sent me a link in an email with like nothing
Right.
else.
It
It was
was
just
just
like
like, yeah.
a subject line, maybe this could help, but she took the time to look into it. And again, like, this is pre a podcast like yours. This
Yeah.
is like pre Instagram. Like, there was no
Right.
information out there about
Right.
tools for endo, but there was this website that had how lower inflammatory plant-based foods could help endo. And I just remember so clearly, like it was yesterday, seeing that list of foods to avoid.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no effing way, man. I am
Right.
not doing this. Are you kidding me?
And I already feel awful. And now I have to give up all of this food.
Yes, exactly. So, but I thought I would get the hysterectomy anyway. And so there was really nothing to lose to try it.
Yeah.
And I dramatically changed what I ate. And like, I shared the story in my first book, but I'm not talking about, I started cooking, I started doing all this stuff. I mean, I was eating salsa on a corn tortilla every day for about 3 months. Like, I had no idea how to cook, but I knew how
Yeah.
to make salsa, and I could easily buy corn tortillas. And that was on the list of things that like weren't on the no list.
Sure.
And I'm not suggesting people just eat a corn tortilla every day for 3 months, but I started feeling so much better removing those big inflammatories from my life. And
Yeah.
again, is there evidence to support that diet can help endo? No, not yet.
Yeah.
But there is evidence to support that big inflammatory foods can help inflammatory conditions. So we have an inflammatory condition. It
Yes.
potentially could help you. So I tried it. It worked. And like you said, it was, it's kind of the gateway tool. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that led me to be able to get out of bed again and to feel actually like a human being
Yeah.
that didn't want to not wake up in the morning, which allowed me to be able to work out again. I went off the pill, and it just took me down this huge rabbit hole of other ways that I could care for myself. Because I just want to be clear, I never thought, like, I made fun of vegetarians. I made fun of people that ate healthy food. Like, why
Right.
would you ever want to do that? Pizza and candy is amazing. But it started to work, and I couldn't deny that it was working.
And that you felt better.
Yes, I felt so much better, but it sucked at the beginning.
It's so hard. I always say baby steps. So I, a little bit differently, I still eat meat, but I slowly gave up caffeine, which was very, very
Oh, yeah.
difficult when I found out. And then I gave up gluten, and then I found out I was allergic to dairy. And so like I baby
Wow.
stepped my way through it though. Like I
Yeah.
really just, and I agree though. I mean, gluten for me, the first thing, and it's not for everybody. And I say it all the time. And I know you say it too. but it really like noticeably in 1 week, I felt a lot better without it. And that's me personally, but it really made a difference. And I love caffeine. I love coffee, but I felt better. I really did. I really, really
I
did.
know. And I think, it's the one, I mean, there might be other controversial things that people pull out of the book, but the one thing I was nervous to write about in the book is that I said that I don't think that gluten is bad for everyone.
No, I agree.
And that
No,
is
I
like,
agree with you.
and it's kind of something that's a little bit scary because there's definitely endo camps that are like gluten never again.
Yeah.
But also, what kind of gluten? Like, I mean, because I do okay with like a really great sourdough or sprouted bread every now and then.
Yeah.
It's not donuts and pizza,
Right.
which I wish made me feel great. But I think when we say no gluten, it's like, what kind of gluten?
Yeah.
There is a huge difference between a piece of sprouted bread and a donut. There's a huge difference.
Yes, I agree.
So, and again, like white bread, you might feel just fine on. For me, it destroys my GI issues. Like, it's just like,
And
so.
that's why, and I love that you say that though, because it's not black and white. It's everyone's different on this journey. And I love that you say that to people too. And some people don't have to cut it out. I know people who have endo that eat gluten and it doesn't affect them the way that it affects me. I can instantly tell. I don't know about you, but like, I eat something wrong, I instantly know.
Oh my gosh. Eggs, like I had to finally cut out eggs, and that was like one of the last things I was holding on to dear life to, because I was like, but once I kind of cut out all the things around the eggs, like I took out the bacon, I took out the cheese, when I had just a plate of scrambled delicious eggs, immediate GI issues. I'm like, okay, this is not for me anymore.
Yeah, it becomes to a point where it's just not worth it. Like,
no.
Yeah. As much as you may love a food, it's just not worth eating it.
And maybe there are some days where you think it is worth it. Like if you go to, I don't know, I thought of like the fair where it has like the most delicious
elephant ears.
I haven't been to a fair in like probably 10 years, but like elephant ears and like those big things of French fries you put vinegar on. Like if you decide to do, I mean, right? If you decide to do that one day and you know it's going to make you feel like shit, like just that's your choice.
Yeah.
And I also want to mention one more thing with food is I don't think that we should blame everything on food, because if you have a cyst or you have lesions in certain places, no amount of no gluten and no dairy is going to make you feel better. I mean, it could definitely lessen the inflammation, but we can't put so much emphasis on, I guess, feeling bad or shaming ourselves because we ate something and then we feel bad. It could have nothing to do with that too.
I fully 100% agree. And it goes back to like a lot of the tools that you have in your book too. It's more than just food. It's everything. Like it's a shift. So you weren't cooking and you're eating your salsa and corn tortillas. Did you just start being like, you know what? I'm learning this new stuff. I'm going to just start to try and cook some, like, how did you transform into this like person who now loves to cook?
I don't know that I even love to cook.
Okay.
But I love having foods that make me feel good, that I actually enjoy.
That tastes good. And
tastes good. And I mean, in the cookbook, I share the story of like the turning point for me was going to a birthday party. And this is like a few months into changing my diet, and the birthday cake coming out and me just having to go outside and cry because I felt, which sounds so dramatic, but I just felt like, oh my gosh, like I can't eat that cake. I could, but it would make me feel like shit. And like, so I'm not able to celebrate birthdays anymore with my friends. Like, what is this life? So that was really a huge turning moment for me to be like, okay, why don't you go home and figure out some cake you can eat? Like, why don't you go home and figure out foods that you love that you can eat? So that's when I really started to teach myself to cook, because I got pissed off that I couldn't enjoy family events and gatherings.
Right. Right. I totally understand that. I still personally don't enjoy cooking anything, but I will make a gluten-free vegan pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving and I
Yeah.
bring it. And you know what? Nobody else might want to eat it. I think it's pretty good, but now I just bring my own stuff. I don't know if you do the same thing, but like
Oh
I'll
my
just be
God.
like,
Yeah, of
oh,
course.
yep, I'm grabbing a gluten-free vegan cupcake on my way to like I do that all the time now.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't unfortunately been able to go to a wedding in a while, but
Yes.
like I always bring my own dessert. I call it BYOD, bring your own dessert to
Yeah.
weddings. I like have it in my bag. And when
So
the cake
smart.
comes out, I'm like, oop, and everyone, everyone's always like, what do you have?
You're
And
like,
sometimes it's better than their cake.
exactly. Exactly. Oh my
So
goodness.
yeah, and I think I think bringing something like you said, I mean, I always make sure to bring something that I can eat to share because I
Yes.
think we think, oh, there'll be something. And then you
No.
end up with like a carrot stick and you're like,
Yes.
and then the host is like, what's wrong? And then you feel like you're like trying to like lose weight and people are like, oh, are you on a diet? It's like, okay, I don't even want to talk about this.
You feel
So
guilty.
yes.
Yes.
So
Always come prepared.
always come prepared. And so I will bring a lasagna or I'll bring something. And I think, you saying I'm bringing something gluten free and vegan, like I never even announce what it is. Like I'm just like,
You just bring
here,
it. Yeah.
I just bring it. And like, and usually people like it.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. All right. So that's like this starts you on this kind of path of moving forward with feeling really well. So after you start to cook and do all of that, do you start learning some other things that become helpful that you want to share? So, right, like this book, just so for everybody who's listening, you can't see, but everyone who's watching, Know Your Endo. By the way, I love the cover.
Oh, thanks.
Um, Jess provides a 5-week kind of toolkit in here that you can follow to help with management of some endo symptoms and things that are going on. But for you, changing your diet and eating better was one, but then did you start just learning more, kind of what put you on this path to be like, I found out all of these things and now I really want to write about it.
Well, I mean, I definitely think when you are a little bit closed, and I don't want to say closed minded because I don't think that that's right. But if you are not as open to new experiences in your life or things that I thought were a little bit healthy or whatever, when you start changing your diet and you start looking into more plant-based or more whole foods, then you kind of are on the perimeter of like, oh, well, what's this mindfulness thing that I hear some of these people talking about? I'm like, what is this movement thing that I'm so I mean, I think that even without trying, you're sort of in close proximity to these other types of tools. And so I also was not open to things like that. Like I remember going to yoga classes and refusing to say namaste at the end because I'm like, whatever, like just like get me out of this room. But now I definitely do that kind of stuff. And so I think when I was able to sort of tap into being a little bit more open to those things and seeing how they made me feel and also doing it in my own way.
Yeah.
Like I still am not super namaste, but like I don't really love yoga, but I love Pilates. Like it's really finding what works for you. And
Yeah.
like, for instance, I like green juice. That doesn't mean you have to like green juice. I mean,
Right.
it's kind of like adapting things. And I think that also took me a little bit of time to figure out that I could do it in my own way. Because I think that with social media and everything that we see, it feels like, well, she looks like she has it figured out. What is she doing? But in the book, it's so important for me to help you figure out your own path. And, in the movement chapter, and I'll have to say the movement chapter is probably my most favorite chapter in the book. I list out like 40 different movement things you could do, like everything from pickleball to aqua aerobics. Like it doesn't have to be yoga. Like it
Right.
could be anything.
Right. Exactly. And I loved that you wrote about foam rolling in there. Foam
Oh my
rolling
gosh.
is literally like a game changer.
Me too. And that was
Love.
something that was something I thought that only marathon runners did. Like,
Right.
I didn't realize that like just a normal person that wasn't a runner could do foam rolling. It has changed
Same
my life. I'm
change.
so glad that you like it.
Love,
I just
love.
I just wrote I just got interviewed, and it's gonna be running tomorrow for Bon Appetit. And I actually
So exciting.
they in the thing they kind of sent me a preview, and it says I talk about foam rolling more than anyone should. Like, it's just like I just want everyone to know about foam rolling.
It's I honestly didn't know until I started strength training, which actually very helped me so much with my endo, and people know because I talk about it all the time. But I start 4 days a week, I would foam roll before that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really helping with my hip pain that I have from
Mhm.
whatever's going on endo wise. And oh, the shooting pain down my leg, I can just roll and it helps. Like I immediately feel better. But yeah, if anyone doesn't, you're nervous about foam rolling, it's not for marathon runners or like super like crazy power lifters. You can do it in your living room right
In
now.
your bed. Like,
Yes.
there are days on the first day of my period where I just call out. I'm like, can someone bring me my foam roller? And I just a lot of times I'll just put it underneath me and just lay and
Yes.
stretch out my body.
Yes.
And in the book, I'm so excited about Heba Shahid, who is a physical therapist. She's a pelvic floor therapist that works a lot with people with endo and has endo herself. Like, she gives us 10 foam rolling exercises and explains why
Yeah.
that foam rolling helps people with endo.
Yeah.
And I think, excuse me, I think the reason why that movement chapter is so important to me, and I'm so excited for people to read it, is because there's so much information online about how exercise helps with pain. But when you're in pain, the last thing you want someone to tell you is to exercise. It's like, fuck you, dude. It's
Yeah.
like, no. So it can be what you want it to be, and it can help tremendously.
Yeah.
And I explain why in the book, why it helps so much.
Yeah. And I really, again, I love that you have like a toolkit so people can make it their own. I think that that is so important. And I agree with you. And this is where I feel like sometimes I'm like, old lady, like, get off my lawn. But like social media makes things seem so much easier than it really is. Everything seems so perfect and easy. And I went running on my first day of my period and I feel
Right.
great. Like that is not for everybody. We're all different. We all react to different types of exercise differently. And if you don't enjoy it and you're in an extreme amount of pain, the last thing you're probably going to go do is go, I don't know, do any type of
Do
crazy
anything.
exercise. Right. If you can get off the couch, like that's an achievement.
Yeah.
So I fully agree. And I think, sometimes social media can glamorize things and it makes you feel worse about yourself because
Yes.
you think you should be able to do X, Y, and Z. And so I think that what Jess does in the book is brings it to you to make these things do things yourself, like what's comfortable for you.
Like,
So
put your butt up against the wall and your legs up. That counts as a movement the first day of your period. You just need to
yes.
get that body moving a little bit, because with endo, we're so clinched and hunched, and we're just tightening our muscles and joints even more.
Because we're protective, right? We're
Yes.
going into this we're in this pain and we're trying to protect, and doing some movement will help open up. And what foam rolling does too is it helps the blood flow, right? Just
Yes.
in your whole body. So like the less constricted you are, you might feel a little bit better.
And it smooths out that fascia. And we talk a lot about fascia in the book.
You do.
And so much of our body is connected to our pelvis. So there are parts of our feet that are connected to our pelvis. So even just getting those little roller balls that you can roll your feet on can be helpful.
Yeah. Right. Just some simple things. Yeah. And so, okay. So you talk about movement is one of the tools, diet, food. What are some of the other tools? What are the other 3 tools?
We talk about stress management. And again, I'm not telling you to meditate. There are a lot of other stress management tools in the book. And, one of the most important things about stress management is through studies and research that I found, and I think a lot of us know this already, but it's kind of cool to see the science behind it, is that a lot of time increased stress can increase pain. So if you're already in pain, that pain catastrophizing, just being more stressed, it can actually increase our pain. So I think it's so important to create some management tools. And I mean, in the book, I mean, it's everything from puzzles to using grounding exercises. I mean, I don't personally love to meditate. And, you know, in the book, I share work that has shown that people that have lived through prolonged stress or prolonged trauma, actually, for a lot of them, meditation can really trigger a lot of that because of the breath-based part of it.
Yeah.
So if you've ever felt more anxiety when you meditate, or you just feel like I can't do this, like it might not be right for you right now. If you want to, you can work up to it. So we explore those tools in stress management. It's the first chapter. Well, the first chapter is, or the first week is knowing your endo.
Yes.
And, you know, in the book, I'm like, I'm sure people are like, well, I bought this book because I already know I have endo. But the point of that first week is to kind of connect what we were talking about earlier, is connecting your symptoms to your endo, as opposed to connecting them to, I'm a gross person, I'm a lazy person.
Yeah.
And I think that it is so powerful to be able to connect those symptoms to your endo and not to you as an individual, because those are two separate things.
Yes.
And so I call them symptom stories. And I encourage, there's places for people to write and to take a look at all of the symptoms and see, you know, painful diarrhea, urination frequency, and to be like, oh my gosh, check. And like, what's a story where you experienced that and you thought poorly of yourself?
Mm-hmm.
It's not you.
Right.
That's not you as a person. It's
Right.
the endo that created that.
Yes.
So I think knowing your endo is such a huge part of it. So that's week 1. Week 2 is movement. Week 3, week 2 is stress management. Week 3 is good food. Week 4 is movement. And then week 5 is kinder home and body. And that's really, when I say kinder, it's kinder to our bodies, but it's also kinder to our earth too. And it's talking about using products in our life and thinking about what they do to our bodies. Now, there's a lot of conflicting information out there. The FDA says that parabens don't cause any issues. There's other groups that say that they could be, you know, cancer forming. I like to say I'm in the camp of, if it could be, probably not going to use it. So,
yeah.
So, you know, it's really thinking about, what are we putting in and up or on our vaginas every month during our periods? Are we using products that have a lot of toxins and chemicals in them? How could we avoid maybe using those by using reusable pads, by using period underwear, by using cups? So yeah, it's really looking at what we use on a daily basis and how we maybe could make shifts to those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, like Jeff says, it's like every week. So it's 5 weeks. So it's not like you have to do everything,
Yes.
Read the book and do it all at once. It's read the one section, try and roll those things out, then come back and go to the next one. I really like that approach because it is overwhelming to try and change so many things at one time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It feels horrible to do that.
Yeah.
And I think it's something too where, you know, if you start week 1 and you're like, I need to be in this for 3 more weeks.
Yes.
This is nobody's plan but your own.
Right. Right. I mean, when you were putting together the book, when you were thinking back, like, okay, these are some of the things I did. And then were you like, this is how I really would like to put together a toolkit? Or when you started like just really sitting down, pen to paper, what were you thinking about? Like, I really want to give these tools that I learned and pass them on, or, you know, how did this come to fruition?
Well, I mean, when I wrote One Part Plant, you know, it's so food based, and it wasn't an endometriosis book, right? I mean, it was a book for anyone that wanted to add more plant-based foods into their life. But I got so many messages messages from people with endo that said, this helped me get diagnosed, or this helped me feel seen. And then it's like, but what else? Like, what else besides food?
Got it.
And so I actually started a course called the Endotool Kit Course to kind of show these tools everyone. And again, I'm not a doctor. I can't offer the nutrition, or I can't diagnose you, but what are the tools that you can do at home, right? Yeah. And so running that course, I wouldn't say it became problematic, but two things came from that. One, again, I'm not a doctor. So all the things that were coming up in the course, like I couldn't address these things with people.
Sure.
And so the second thing was, it was not available or affordable for everyone at that time. So how could I package all that information up, bring in the best doctors in the country or in the world, and just expand that and make it affordable to more people? And so that's really why I wanted to do the book, is because, and also not everyone even has a computer to use to take a course, or a smartphone or whatever. Like, this could be something that anyone could find at the library, that could be passed along from endo person to endo person. So so that's how the book came about.
Oh, I love that. That's so great. Also in the book too, just there are some recipes. So Jess isn't leaving you behind. There's some good recipes in here. I'm super excited. Okay. I love dessert. I have a problem.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I'm going to make the oatmeal cookies.
Oh, good.
Those sounded, everything sounded really good. Again, I'm not a cook. I don't like to cook. I do bake. I will bake because I feel like that's easy. I can like measure things.
But if you look at the recipes, they're all really easy. Like that's how I like to cook, first of all. Second, I want these to be foods that people can make when they're having a rough period day, maybe when they're having a fatigue day. Like, it was so important for me for these recipes to be like 30 minutes or less. Very few ingredients too.
Yes. I did notice that. And I actually was, when I was looking at the recipes, because I didn't go through every single one, I was like, oh, I could do this. I did have those like conversations, like, I think I could handle this. I could handle
there's
that.
The complicated recipes, if that's what you're looking for, there are a lot of other cookbooks for those. That is not my jam.
For sure. Is there anything else you want to mention about the book?
Yeah, I do want to also mention that there is I call it kind of a bonus chapter that explores traditional Chinese medicine, pelvic floor therapy, lymphatic movement, cannabis, CBD, but I didn't want to include that in, the foundation, because not everyone has access to those things. Not everyone, whether they live in a place that has them or their budget can allow those things.
Yes.
So if you're interested in those, I've got you too. But, it was interesting writing this book during the pandemic, because it kind of just proved more to me, because a lot of people didn't have access to those special treatments. And so it just is like reminding me how important it is to build a foundation in your home.
Yes, I fully agree. And that's what I haven't gotten through the entire book yet, because I just got it last week, but I loved that it's everything you have is that something that anyone can do, right? Anyone can do from home. There's accessibility, and there's not a lot of accessibility for some treatments for people that have endo. And I think that's something that's not talked about a lot. So I really am grateful that you said that. And like you said, that you kept this as a separate chapter, because acupuncture is expensive, a lot. My pelvic PT isn't covered under and thank God I have medical insurance. There's people who don't have access to care. They don't have access to medical insurance. So what I love about Jess's toolkit is that she gives you things that you can do at home, which is great, that anyone can have access to actually feel a little bit better.
Yeah. And it's so expensive, and it's also time consuming. Let's say you do have the luxury to be able to go to an acupuncturist or a pelvic floor therapist, and let's say they're 20 minutes away. The appointment is an hour. Like you're
Yeah.
looking at 2 hours out of your day.
Yes.
And then you kind of have to emotionally get back in the zone again, because those things can be bring up some emotions.
Yeah.
And now you're looking at like half your workday gone. Like not a lot of people can do that.
No.
I can't.
No. I mean, managing endo is like having another full-time job.
Yes.
It really can be. So again, these tools are really, really helpful. How are you feeling now? I know you talk a little bit in the book, and you talk about that.
I feel like I can't believe that how I feel. Like I think that I still experience some pretty tough GI issues, and I'm kind of figuring out, but the endo part, I feel great. I mean, and when I say great, I also like to mention that my best day could be someone else's nightmare, right? It's like, you know what I mean? But I mean, it's been 10 years since I've introduced these tools. I'm not going to cry, but like, it's been 10 years, and like, I still feel grateful every single fucking day for like the way that I feel. Like I don't take this for granted. I still know how I could feel.
Yeah.
And so, a few years ago, I had a huge cyst rupture, and it was such a reminder that that these management tools are working for me, that like before, when I had a cyst rupture, like I also felt all the pain of the endo too, like leading up to that. But when that cyst rupture, I was like, oh my gosh, like these tools are helping me so much, and like this is how I could feel every day still. So I feel great for me.
And that's good. I mean, that's the goal, right? Everybody needs to feel great for you, and that's really, really important. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on and chatting with us, and for you writing both of the books that you've written, and everything that you do for the community, because you do so much, and you just have such a beautiful way of doing it. So
thank you.
I really do feel that way. And the book, this episode is dropping May 7th. So the book is out, everybody. Go grab it. Jess, where can they get it? Everywhere?
Yeah, you can go to knowyourendo.com/book. I learned reading my audiobook, you're supposed to say /book. /book. And yeah, it's available in the US, the UK, Australia, Canada. I'm trying to, hopefully we'll expand into more countries, but yeah, wherever books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, everywhere.
Good. That's great. Yeah, we have a pretty global audience, so everyone will be very excited that they can pick it up. I definitely recommend checking it out, everyone. And if you don't know Jess, definitely go follow her. Where can they follow you on social?
You can follow me at Know Your Endo, and then also at Jessica Murnane. I have to say, the Know Your Endo account is here are facts.
Okay.
This is facts. But at Jessica Murnane, it's a little bit more fun.
A little more fun. Wow. Anything else you want to add or tell anyone before we wrap up, Jess?
I just appreciate you doing this, having a podcast, just spreading the word about endo awareness. I mean, I think awareness is so critical, and it's why I printed symptoms in my book, I think 2 or 3 times, because I just want everyone to be able to recite the symptoms, not just for themselves, but to potentially help someone else get diagnosed.
Yep, absolutely. 100%. Thank you so much for coming on. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right, take care.